Chapter 13 of Famous Sea Fights by John R. Hale. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Winterraud. Famous Sea Fights by John R. Hale. Chapter 13 Santiago de Cuba, 1898. The United States Navy had taken a decisive part in securing victory for the Union in the War of Succession. It had effectively blockaded the Atlantic and Gulf coasts of the Confederacy, captured New Orleans, given valuable help to the Army in seizing the line of the Mississippi, and by combined effect of these operations isolated the Confederate States from the rest of the world, destroyed their trade, and cut off their supplies. One would have expected that the importance of sea power would have been fully appreciated in the United States after such experiences, and that steps would have been taken to form and maintain an effective fleet. But for some 20 years after the war, the American Navy was hopelessly neglected. During this period, the fleet consisted mainly of some of the miscellaneous collection of ships of various types built or purchased during the years of conflict. Old monitors that had engaged the batteries of Charleston figured in the Navy list, besides sloops and steam frigates that were little better than armed merchantmen. The only good work that was done by the Navy Department was the training and maintenance of a corps of excellent officers, and to their influence it was due that at last a beginning was made of the building of a new navy. The first ships built were of two classes. Public opinion was still clinging to the idea that the Monitor was a supremely effective type of warship, and accordingly considerable sums were expended on the building of coast defense vessels of this type, low freeboard turret ships, carrying a couple of heavy guns in an armored turret. But ships were also required that could make ocean voyages and show the flag in foreign waters, and for this purpose a number of protected cruisers were built, full-rigged masted steamers, with their guns in broadside batteries. Still, the United States possessed only a fourth or fifth rate fleet, and could not have sent to sea a squadron that could rank with the fleets kept in commission regularly by several of the European powers. Advocates of the old American plan of having no foreign policy even maintained that the country had no need of an ocean-going fleet, and required only coast defense ships and a few light cruisers. It was not till the end of the 80s that American opinion was aroused to the danger of neglecting the sea power of the States. The splendid American Navy of today is the creation of less than 20 years of systematic development. When the war broke out between the United States and Spain over the Cuban question, several of the new cruisers and battleships were available, but many older ships were still in the service, and a number of armed liners and other makeshift auxiliaries were taken into the Navy. During the period of tension that immediately preceded the war, two fleets were concentrated on the Atlantic coast. The North Atlantic Fleet, under Admiral Sampson at Key West, Florida, and the Reserve Fleet, officially known as the Flying Squadron, under Commodore Xiii at Hampton Roads. The Pacific Squadron, under Commodore Dewey, was at Hong Kong, waiting to sail for the Philippines as soon as war was declared. In the following list of Sampson's and Schley's squadrons, beside the displacement of each ship, the date of her launch is noted so as to distinguish between the older and the newer types of warships. North Atlantic Squadron. Armored cruiser and flagship, New York. Displacement, 8,480 tons. Launched in 1891 with a speed of 21.5 knots. Battleships, Iowa, with a displacement of 11,296 tons. Launched in 1896, speed of 16.5 knots. The Indiana, displacement of 10,231 tons. Launched in 1893, speed of 15.5 knots. Cruisers, Cincinnati, with a displacement of 3,183 tons, launched in 1892, speed of 19.5 knots. The Detroit, the Montgomery, and the Marblehead, all with a displacement of 2,000 tons, launched in 1892 and a speed of 19.5 knots. Monitors, the Puritan, a displacement of 6,060 tons, launched in 1883, speed 12.5 knots, and the Terror, 3,990 tons, launched in 1883, speed of 12.5 knots. Torpedo boats, the Cushing, at 105 tons, launched in 1890 with a speed of 22.5 knots. The Erickson, 120 tons, launched in 1892, the speed of 23.5 knots. The Rogers, displacement of 142 tons, launched in 1896, speed 25.5 knots. The Foote, displacement of 142 tons, launched in 1896, with a speed of 24.5 knots. The Porter, at 185 tons displacement, launched in 1896, speed of 28.5 knots. The DuPont, 185 tons displacement, launched in 1896, speed of 27.5 knots. The Winslow, at 142 tons, launched in 1897, speed of 24.5 knots. Besides this, there were gunboats and tenders. The Flying Squadron, the armored cruiser and flagship Brooklyn, displacement of 9,153 tons, launched in 1895, speed of 17.5 knots. Battleships, Texas, displacement of 6,315 tons, launched in 1892, speed of 21.5 knots. The Massachusetts, 10,231 ton displacement, launched in 1893, speed 16.5 knots. The cruisers, Columbia, displacement of 7,475 tons, launched in 1892, speed of 23.5 knots. The Minneapolis, displacement of 7,475 tons, launched in 1893, the speed of 23.5 knots. These were the two fleets available for the blockade of Cuba, and the operations of attacking coast fortifications, covering the transportation of the army of invasion, and dealing with any naval force Spain might send to these waters. Other units were subsequently added to the fleet after both squadrons had concentrated under Sampson's command. In West Indian waters, the Spaniards had only a few light craft, and the old cruiser Reina Mercedes at Santiago, with her boilers and engines in such a state that she could not go to sea. For many years the Spanish Navy had been sadly neglected, but since 1890 some armored cruisers had been built, and a flotilla of torpedo boat destroyers added to the Navy. A number of antiquated units figured on the Navy list, including useless battleships dating from the 60s, and small unarmored cruisers little better than gunboats. There was one fairly modern battleship, the Pelayo, dating from 1887, but expert opinion was very divided about her value. When the war broke out, the Spanish Pacific Squadron, under Admiral Montoyo, was at Manila. To use the words of an American naval officer, it was made up of a number of old tubs not fit to be called warships. It was promptly destroyed by Commodore Dewey's squadron from Hong Kong. The Battle of Manila Bay, Sunday, the 1st of May, 1898. It was the first American victory in the war, and in the national rejoicing there was much exaggeration as to Dewey's exploit, which was compared to Nelson's victories. On the eve of the war, a Spanish fleet, officially known as the Atlantic Squadron, had been concentrated, under the command of Admiral Cervera, in the Portuguese harbor of St. Vincent, in the Cape de Verde Islands, and the local authorities somewhat strained the laws of neutrality by allowing Cervera to use the port to complete his preparations for some time after the outbreak of the war.